Today, I'm going to talk to you about why trim cannot be trained when it comes to side mount. And this is really the foundation of, or a core principle of the access system, which I have created to teach side mount under Sidemount Authority by Turk. Welcome back to the formerly Scuba with Turk YouTube channel. This is now Sidemount Authority by Turk. I am Turk. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about why trim can't be trained, and then the axis method that I've come up with to teach side mount. I didn't create the axis method to become another way of teaching side mount. I created it because too many divers, they were compensating for systems that should never have required compensation in the first place. Over time, I noticed a pattern. When alignment was correct, instruction became quiet. When alignment was wrong, effort increased and the results deteriorated. The axis method that I've come up with is not innovative, it's corrective. It strips side mount back to the first principles and demands that outcomes, not explanations, are the measure of correctness. So it sounds confusing, but we want to go back to our outcomes, right? Outcomes are the measure of correctness. What is the outcome? Are you stable? The framework doesn't belong to ego, agency politics, or any trend. The framework is the framework. The outcome is stability upon the axis. The framework belongs to those willing to submit to a standard and then accept what the system reveals. How does any of that relate to side mount diving and trim? Well, trim's not something you practice. You can't just keep practicing it and make it come into existence. It doesn't work that way. If your trim requires attention, the system's already failed. Trim should never require attention. It should be the default. When we look at training, specifically side mount training, it assumes that the system's correct, right? And that the issue is with you, the diver. Hey, we need you to do this, change this. You're doing this, instead do this. With the axis system that I've come up with, it takes that assumption and reverses it. When alignment's correct, trim appears without any effort. When alignment's wrong, there is no amount of practice that's going to stabilize it. This is why in a suboptimal configuration, repetition, do it again, it often increases frustration on the diver level. So the solution's not more dives, it's fewer variables. So I can hear some people out there questioning, what am I doing? What is this axis? What is this side mount authority? Well, side mount authority exists to define what correct means in side mount diving. There's so many different thoughts out there and ways of teaching. We're going to define what is correct. No preferences, no styles, no opinions, just correct. We operate on the premise that most side mount problems, they're not caused by effort or a lack of effort, motivation, or talent even, but by misalignment. When alignment is restored, complexity collapses. This entirely complex system is no longer complex. It just is. Sounds kind of all woo-woo. There are really 5 core principles to this axis method. I'm not going to go into all of them, not in this video. That's going to be something down the road when I do roll out this entire program. I am actually teaching a side mount course on the 19th. I'm going to be incorporating this axis method into that. But there's basically our first principles. If we look at the very first one, it's stability is an outcome. It's not a skill. That's what we want at the end. And there's no skill. You can't keep practicing stability. You either are or you are not. If stability has to be actively managed, the system's incorrect. It's just plain and simple. You should never have to manage stability. It's there. In a correct, properly aligned system, it's there. If we have to correct something, that indicates a failure of the system. Doesn't indicate a failure of the diver. So stability is an outcome, not a skill. Correction indicates failure. First 2 principles. Now the third is one that we kind of discuss. A lot of high-level side mount instructors discuss, becoming one with your unit, with your rig. I wanted to go a step further. The diver is part of the equipment system. There is no separation between body, harness, gas, and intent. It's all one system. There's two more. I'll briefly discuss the fourth one. I'm going to leave the fifth one alone for right now, but symmetry is functional, not aesthetic. I've come to realize that there are different types of balance and stability in the water, right? There is a visual balance. You look balanced and in trim for your Instagram reel or your YouTube video. But that visual balance, it's irrelevant unless it produces, and for me, this is the big key here, is unless it produces operational stability. Are you stable throughout the process of a dive? Are you stable throughout failures? If there is a failure, do you resort back to a stable, in trim, on axis position? If that fails, then you don't have operational stability. If you need to reset, stop, get neutral again, there's a system failure. So what is the axis? Well, it stands for some things. I'm not going to go into those just yet, but it represents the single reference around which all side mount variables resolve. Any variable we have can be resolved around the axis. When the axis is correct, trim becomes quiet. Now, Turk, that sounds like a weird thing to say. Trim is quiet when we're not thinking about it, when we're not actively involved in trying to keep ourselves in trim. Buoyancy becomes predictable. I know what's going to happen. The system is configured properly on the axis. What's going to happen next with my buoyancy is predictable. Task loading decreases. Well, of course, task loading is going to decrease, right? If trim is quiet, it's not something we're thinking about and actively engaged in constantly correcting. If buoyancy is predictable, we're not focused on those things, so now we have more bandwidth. So obviously task loading decreases. The axis isn't a concept. Right? So many people come up with concepts in this industry. It's not a concept. The axis is a measurable condition. I didn't create the axis to add another method to sidemount diving. I created it because too many divers they're compensating for systems that should never have required compensation in the first place. So over time, I noticed a pattern. When the alignment was correct, instruction became quiet. I said less. I needed to do less. When alignment was wrong, effort increased and results deteriorated. So again, it's not innovative, it's corrective. It strips sidemount back to the very first principles and demands that outcomes, not explanations, be the measure of correctness. I'm not going to explain to you what good looks like. I'll explain to you what you can do to be better at it. It's going to be good. If it's not good, the alignment's wrong. So why trim can't be trained? It's not something you should be struggling with on the entire dive. It's not something you should be actively working to constantly correct over the course of your own dive. Because when your alignment is correct, trim just appears without effort. It just is. I think it's the best way to say it. When the alignment's wrong, well, it doesn't matter how much you practice. It's just, you're not going to stabilize it. Stability is not the goal, it's the evidence. Is the system correct? Is it aligned properly along the axis? I know some of this seems a little out there, maybe a little on the edge, like I don't really know what I'm talking about. Trust me, I do. I've put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this process. I've been taking lots of notes. When I finish teaching a course, I actually take the evening after I've certified my student, and I literally go through day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, dive by dive, what I did as the instructor, what the student did, and then where I can improve, where I did well, where I need to improve. Basically, I debrief myself. And in doing this, I've noticed some trends. And that's where this axis method comes in, especially when I'm going out here in Bali and I'm diving and I see these side mount divers out here. I should probably put that in quotes. you can tell that the axis is off, that stability is not present, that the system is wrong. The diver's not wrong. That diver who you see in the water struggling with their side mount, they're not wrong. They're just a diver who is improperly trained. It's the alignment that is incorrect. The alignment of what, Turk? You're saying all these things, but you're not being specific. I'm not being specific for a reason. But the alignment, if we want to look at alignment, like I mentioned earlier, it's the entire system, right? It's the diver, the harness, the gas. It all creates the system. You can't have one without the other. When everything is properly aligned on the axis, the diver doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you put in there, how many dives they have, how experienced they are. If that rig is configured properly and everything is in proper alignment, really a monkey go out there and be stable. So this is the introduction to Sidemount Authority by me, Turk, and the axis method. There's going to be a lot more coming soon. I know this is kind of out there. I wanted to get something out on this channel because I'm going to start doing more here. So a lot of you may have seen me here in Prana Dive. So go check out the Prana Dive YouTube. I'll create a lot of content there. This channel is going to be switching up and being more focused on Sidemount Authority, the axis method, and how I'm creating a system where not only can I make divers, but I'm going to be making instructors to a certain degree. I'm creating an entire system that I can push out there. You've seen this before. There's other people that have done this. The Razor system they have, that is a actual BCD system in and of itself, but they have Razor instructors, right? Sidemount.com with Steve Martin and Voss Proud. They have instructors in their system. Right, I'm going to create my own system. I'm creating instructors in my system. There's a whole rollout of this and buy-in that I'm working on. I think this can change how we teach side mount diving. I think it can it can assist. It's not going to get rid of crappy side mount divers and crappy side mount instructors who self-certify after 20 dives, even though they only have 10, they lied about the other 10. And the person that taught them side mount was also a crappy side mount instructor. I want to try to eliminate a lot of that. So if you're interested in the axis method, if you're interested in Sidemount Authority, get a hold of me. I am currently looking for about 3 people who want to come experience this. Maybe even get some of your configuration properly aligned. We'll talk about what the system is, how it works, and then how you can be a part of it. That way I can kind of evaluate more my system. You can evaluate what I'm doing and decide if this is something that you want to incorporate in what you're doing wherever you're located. Remember, if your divers are fighting to stay in trim, they've not achieved balance, then the system is improperly aligned. It is off axis somewhere. Trim, you can't train it. It's there or it's not. And you know it's not the minute you start introducing failures. If you introduce failures and that diver goes, whoop, goes, legs down, head up towards the surface, or they go head down, legs up to the surface, that stability was never incorporated into the system to begin with. So let's be better, let's do better. If you have questions, feel free to comment below. If you think I'm a lunatic, feel free to comment below. Maybe a little bit, but I'm fun. Stick around, there's gonna be a lot more coming. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Go ahead and share this with somebody and talk about how insane that you think I am. But trust me, this is going to do wonders for the side mount industry. So thank you. And until next time, safe diving.